Yeah, let's go. I ain't the first with the curse, with the thirst that I wanna be better, not worse, man.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Truther. Hopefully this microphone is still working correctly. Hopping into lessons from 2024. I actually wrote this list as the season went on, which is why one of them makes me laugh still. And I also recapped it at the end of the season. The first one I had on here was don't fade late round rookies. But whether you're in Dynasty or redraft or even realistically a best ball format, if you have an opportunity to take a rookie as a flyer, especially somebody who could be a wide receiver 3 with an injury, could become the wide receiver 2, or a running back who is more than likely going to be the backup, but by the end of the season could be somebody who starts to pop and show signs of life. So essentially speaking, like I said, you just don't want to, if you can take a flyer on somebody late round that's a rookie that has an opportunity to possibly get some looks, reps, passes, catches, whatever it may be. If you can get them for free, then take them for free. The next one is jump on second year wide receivers, especially with an aging cast. I mean, essentially speaking, that's essentially what happened with JSN, Rashee Rice. I know Rashee Rice's season was kind of short. And a myriad of other players at other positions as well. But with wide receivers, I think it's definitely true, which is something that everyone in fantasy football talks about, which is second year wide receiver breakouts. Surprisingly this year, there's a handful of second year wide receivers that people haven't talked about. So I will make a video about that as well. Just lay around people that I think are worth taking a swing on. Another one, this is the one that makes me laugh, is don't listen to other people in the fantasy football space. Again, this one's more for me. Y'all are more than welcome to do whatever it is you guys want to do as far as where you get your information from. What I learned pretty quickly, though, and I mentioned it again, like I said in the introduction episode, was there's a lot of bad information. There's also a lot of copy and pasting among a lot of creators who have a lot of followers, too, which is good for them. But a lot of it is the same stuff. It's not people who watch the film. It's not the people who look at like actual stats that really matter. It is people that are listening to other people, reading stuff online, and then they're regurgitating it. You're buying it, eating it, and you're pooping it back out the next week because it didn't really work for you. So the next one on the list is take your shot on 2 QBs and one better run though. What I can say for myself is it's exactly what I did last year. I took a very late round quarterback, and then I ended up sitting and taking another person that I thought was a flyer. It did end up working out because at the end of the day, if you can set yourself up where you're taking a guy who you think could be, you know, a QB1 in fantasy, not QB1 overall, but a QB1 in fantasy, and take a high upside guy who you know can run the ball a little bit more, you're kind of hedging your bets, and it does set you up in a position where you have a better chance of pivoting off of one guy or potentially staying on the first guy and throwing the other guy back to the waiver wire if he's not producing at a higher level. From there, the next thing on the list is either go early tight end or wait until later rounds, which again is I feel like a very common, popular thing here in fantasy football. I've kind of adjusted that take a little bit. For me, it's essentially speaking, if you can get a tight end who is probably not Brock Bowers or Trey McBride, maybe if you can get a George Kittle, Sam Laporta, those types who are people who are proven but are going to be going later in drafts, those are probably the ones I would target. And if you can't get one of those, then you might as well just wait, because at that point in time, you're just taking people that are I hope. So you might as well wait for somebody else who's I hope / I know, or go with a rookie tight end maybe if they go later, just because at that point in time, you're kind of just, you know, banking and hoping and working the waiver wire for a tight end. Next would be look for inherent value and avoid hype trains. So kind of how I'm comparing it to my own, I guess, rankings as well as what the ADP on the site I'm drafting from is. I'm trying to compare those things and seeing where the inherent values are, which is something that everybody talks about. But again, when everybody ranks people the exact same, it's a little bit harder to find those inherent values, especially if you're playing best ball. If you're on a site, what I would recommend is if you're on like ESPN or Sleeper or Yahoo, wherever you're drafting and redraft, is if you can come up with your own list from my content or somebody else's or however you want to go about it, compare that to what that actual platform's ADP is. And you should be able to find some people that you can wait a little bit later on that maybe you think should be going higher. And in some cases, you can also do the opposite. You can fade players that you're like, man, you should be going around later, but it says you should be drafted now. So it kind of sets you up where you can kind of play the game and play around what the ADP is on your platform that you're drafting on. So it is something that I would really, really highly recommend. This one is another one that I think is important. And again, it's more of a, I guess, something that everybody knows now. But make sure you're paying attention to off-season injury news and camp news, because again, there was stuff coming out about Christian McCaffrey being, hurt in the offseason and leading up to camp, and had people listen to that and maybe adjusted their rankings versus just listening to everybody else. They probably could have set themselves up for more success. I can confidently tell you that I had conversations with my friends in the league that I played in, and I did very bluntly say that to a couple of them, that I would not be taking CMC because I didn't trust the situation that was coming out of camp. I don't like that. So the next one on the list is a little bit more subjective to your individual way that you draft, but for myself, one of the big things I took away was, for me, it's better to take RB1s on middling teams than most RB2s. Now, there are going to be RB2s out there this year, for example, whether it be T. Higgins with Jamar Chase, or if it's going to be Devontae Adams with Puka Nacua, or if it's Chris Godwin, or maybe not Emeka Ibuka, but Chris Godwin with a Mike Evans. You're going to have these situations where those are some of the guys that, yeah, maybe you want to take over some like lower end running back ones. But aside from those handful of guys that are more elite wide receiver 2s, more like 1Bs to the 1As, in my opinion, you're much better off if you're taking RB1s on teams that you may not be as excited about as those other wide receiver 2s, just because I really do truly feel, and it's not just based off of last year, that there's more inherent value in taking those players. Because again, you're getting, I can't swear guaranteed production, but you're going to get more production out of them in the long run throughout the season than you will with a lot of these wide receiver 2s. Obviously, it's kind of a give and take, because then there's some running backs out there like last year, like Zamir White, Rashad White, no offense to the guys with the last name of White, but guys that you just don't feel good about at all, then that's when I would go back to my wide receiver 2s and stay away from those type of running back ones. The next one on the list is go with the flow in your draft. Don't force a position. Wait for value, which again, I kind of touched on earlier. So I guess I really thought it was important is, again, try and find, based off of your rankings and the site that you're drafting off, ADP, try and find areas of value, and don't force it like, oh, I don't have a QB, or I don't have a tight end, so the best thing for me to do is take one right now, when you might be overdrafting a player just because it's a positional need. So don't put yourself in that position. Another one on my list, which was funny because it's kind of the opposite of the first one. I said don't fade late round rookies. On the flip side, my second to last one is don't draft high round rookies, which is kind of funny and ironic, which kind of ties into Marvin Harrison Jr. last year. When it came to Malik Neighbors last year, he was more of a late round 2, round 3 guy. So again, you're not taking him super early at that point in time. So if you want to take your shot because you think he's going to be great, then there you go, I guess. But again, taking somebody in the first round or at the very beginning of the second round, those just aren't picks that I think people should be taking. I think there's way too much risk. There's no proven performance at the NFL level, and I think you just set yourself up for way too much risk. For the last one, if a team does not have a good run game and only a wide receiver 1, that wide receiver 1 is going to be in a little bit of trouble. Either they need to have a wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 that you feel good about, or at least a competent running game. I think a good example of that, to be 100% honest, is CeeDee Lamb last year. Again, CeeDee Lamb was doing very well, but he was not able to reach that same level of ceiling because they really did not have a true running game. No offense to Rico Dowdle, but he was not even Tony Pollard, and Tony Pollard was not prime Zeke Elliott. I mean, you're going to see a lot of situations where you're going to have these wide receivers that aren't going to be able to be as productive as you may be ranking them or expecting them to be because there's not a running game to back them up and there's no other receiver to take pressure off them. So again, it's very easy to put them in a box and it really can limit their production. So again, I think a lot of times we want to play the game of who has the best talent, but you also have to consider situation, which also includes the wide receivers and running backs and quarterback, obviously, but that one goes without saying. So you got to keep that in mind when you're looking at who you're drafting and the situation that they really do find themselves in this year. All right, guys, so hopefully this video was entertaining to some extent. Hopefully you got some good information out of it. So that's what I got for y'all. Have a blessed day. Look forward to seeing y'all. No, just kidding. You'll be seeing me hopefully real soon. Bye.